You're listening to a Brain Stew Fresh Fright Review.
What's up, creeps? Welcome to a brand new Brain Stew Fresh Fright Review. I'm Justin.
I'm B-Ratty.
And on this episode, B-Ratty, what are we talking about? What are we reviewing on this episode?
We're getting real sick tonight.
Oh, look what you did there. It's been a while since you... why haven't you been on the show? Oh, you got hit by a car. That's right. Is that why you weren't on the show last week?
Yeah, I got hit by a car, and then the week after, I slipped on black ice and busted my other knee. So I'm out here just hobbling along. So yeah, it was the first time I've ever been hit by a car while walking. So can't say I want to do it again. Not a great time, but the poor kid got out of his car and he was like crying, and I was just like shocked at what happened, and I just couldn't.
Okay, so you're back, though.
Yeah.
You're here, you're alive, you're healthy.
Yeah.
And we are talking about Sick, the brand new slasher film that just debuted on Peacock this last weekend. Written by none other than Scream's Kevin Williamson. So the movie has some prestige automatically when you attach that name to the writing team of any kind of movie, let alone a slasher movie. I mean, it's kind of like horror royalty, if you will.
Yeah.
And he also produced the movie. Interesting that it did go directly to streaming on Peacock. I mean, we need those movies. Those movies have their place for viewers. But I feel like the more we talk about this movie, I don't know about you, Brady, but I feel like this movie could have benefited from a theatrical presentation, even if maybe just a limited one. I know I say that about a lot of stuff, whether I like it or I dislike it. But yeah, a lot of people are talking about this one for obvious reasons. And, well, if our listeners are unaware, Brady, and what the movie is and what it's about, why don't you let them know?
Yeah, so Sick opens at the beginning of the global pandemic we've all come to know as COVID-19. And it features a pretty small cast that we'll get into, which I think works for the movie. But the movie focuses on carefree Parker and her more mask-abiding best friend Miri as they venture to Parker's family cabin to isolate from the rest of the world during the initial stages of COVID. After receiving some unsettling text messages from an unknown observer, the girls quickly find themselves in a fight for their survival.
Yeah, and then, of course, as we've said on this show for years and years and years, hijinks ensue. But first, before we go on the actual review and initial thoughts, Brady, I have to ask you, I mean, the movie is centered around COVID as a subject, about a time frame, if you will. Do you think, we're talking about this movie in 2023, the first month, January, do you think it's too soon to be riffing on COVID as a theme for your horror movie?
No, not at all. I mean, it's been everybody's reality, whether you believe in masks or not. We don't have to get into all that, but, everybody still lived through this experience, and I personally don't think that there's a time restraint on when you can start using it as creative juices. Some people, I mean, if you want to call it exploitation, sure, but like we've all seen the genre do it before, and not just this genre, but every genre. Like, come on, like, I don't think it's too soon. I think if they had,
we haven't had any COVID-related romantic comedies yet, have we? Adam Sandler hasn't done one of those yet, has he?
I think we have. I think I've heard.
Oh, have we? Okay.
I would probably watch an Adam Sandler one though. I would actually get really down with that.
Dude, I got to tell you, after watching him in Hustle last week, horror genre aside, he's fucking fantastic in that. I see now why he's getting all the praise for his performance. I don't even like sports movies, and I loved the shit out of that movie. It was fantastic.
I think the last sports movie that I watched that I really enjoyed was The Way Back with Ben Affleck that came out last year.
Wasn't that another basketball movie?
Yeah, he's like the washed-up Catholic coach.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was pretty good. So I'll have to watch that one. But no, to answer your question, no, I don't think it's too soon. I can understand how people might be apprehensive to go see it, but it's a horror movie. Come on. If you lived through this, just go watch it. Laugh at it a little bit.
And it's funny because, if you look back 2 years, where we were at as a society, as a country, if you will, COVID was, considered a terrifying thing. I mean, a lot of people were very, very fucking scared about this thing. And COVID is like the least scary thing in this movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you know what I mean?
I don't know. I guess I don't know about Virginia right now, but I know Massachusetts, Boston specifically, is seeing an uptick in COVID cases. But I think it's that time of year too. Not to write it off, but this is the time of year and things are getting a little more lax. Everybody's trying to get back to normal. So maybe that adds an extra level of fear to this movie coming out now during like flu season.
I mean, it's entirely possible. I mean, it's funny because the movie opens in 2020, right? And so much has happened in that amount of time. I feel like during COVID, time slowed down for everybody.
Yeah.
We weren't able to go to concerts. Going to the movies for a long time was not a thing either, which absolutely destroyed my heart and soul and body. Going to the gym was also not a thing. So a lot of things we weren't able to do, but the movie opens and you're like, you feel like you're transported back to this ancient time, which was only 2 fucking years ago. But It's crazy to think that like, once we got through it for the most part, as a society and started to move forward, now it's only been a couple years and it seems like it was so long ago. I mean, maybe that's just my perspective, but
no, I mean, it definitely, when it opens with, Tyler is his name, I believe.
That's right.
In the store, I was like, oh man, like I remember working at Starbucks at the time and having to close the store down and then reopen it and put arrows and tape down so people knew which way to walk, and you're putting all the mask signs up. So like that brought me back to a very specific place. And yeah, I had to be like, wow, like that was not 10 years ago. That was almost 3 years ago. Because it'll be, 3 years in March, right? Yeah.
That's right, yeah. Because I'll never forget, it was like, I was working one day and I had just received my NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie Shredder and Splinter action figures at work. Like I had them there and I was about to display them and I was like, oh no, I'll just do that tomorrow. Cause I had I've got like action figures. I got Jason and Michael Myers on my desk. And the next thing we were told, via a text the next day, don't come into work. And then we never went back to work.
Justin was like, I'm going back in.
Dude, those fucking boxes are still sitting there with those figures. I'm guaranteeing you, just sitting on my desk collecting dust. God damn it. I don't know why I never go back to get the goddamn
I just
things.
imagine like in the movie Backdraft, like you and a team are just going in there, climbing the stairs looking for your action figures.
I'm climbing the fucking side of the building, man, like Spider-Man. Cut a hole in the fucking glass and slide in, and where's my goddamn figures? But no, I mean, like, I honestly, to get to the opening of the movie, I have to say, and there's got to be the comparisons, because it's been a while since Kevin Williamson has written a horror movie. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I can't even, it was Scream 4, the last thing he wrote that was a horror movie?
I believe so.
I mean, right off the top of my head, he did not write Five Cream, aka Scream. He just produced and he had a lot of creative input. But so there's got to be this anticipation from fans. I know I had a little bit. I didn't have an expectation, but I did have anticipation, thinking like, whoa, Kevin Williamson's writing a new slasher movie. I mean, hearing that in the same sentence is kind of exciting for any fan of horror, especially Scream fans like ourselves and fans like us that love I Know What You Did Last Summer. I mean, 90s slashers are our thing. So it's like, whoa, this many years later and he's returning again. And so I feel like the opening, you have to compare. There's got to be those comparisons to Scream, but it has this cool cold open with this character, Tyler, who's just literally going out to the grocery store, and trying to pick up some shit. I mean, there's a toilet paper joke, which of course I feel like that's on the nose a little bit, but who's not going to laugh at that now? You know what I mean? Like thinking back that was a thing where we had to like literally search for toilet paper for fucking weeks and no one could find any.
I mean, do you remember the videos of like them bringing a pallet of water or like a pallet of toilet paper out at like a Costco or BJ's and people swarming like zombies, just grabbing shit?
Yeah. See, luckily for me, all I did was I lived in an apartment complex at the time. Brady, I don't know if you remember this. Yeah. I would just go downstairs in the gym bathroom and just take the toilet paper. So we were good. If we were running out, I'm like, I'm just going to go downstairs to the gym and until they locked the fucking gym.
They said someone's stealing all the fucking toilet paper.
Well, no, they were like, you can't use the gym anymore. So that's when we bought all that gym equipment. I was like, fuck. Because for the longest time, I'm like, I'm just going to use this gym. No one uses it anyways. But all that aside, the movie opens with the toilet paper thing, the kid grabbing some tissues, and then like this mom is like, really, bro?
Yeah.
Really, dude? I was like, damn, this kid's getting shit on all over the place.
Dude, he gives her the box. He doesn't even put up a fight. He's like, here you go. And she's like, dick. Well, I was like, what?
Well, dude, also, you know, I have to give credit where credit is due. It's a mother. She's holding a child, you know? So
I don't give a fuck.
Listen, Brady, we know you hate children
I hate
very,
kids.
very much. But that poor kid, you never know what's going to happen, okay? Snot goes all over the place.
I know what's going to happen. Anyways.
Well, the movie conveys something that we've seen in plenty of others in the past few years. You know, text bubbles popping up on the screen. I don't know how you feel about that.
I don't care anymore. It's one of those things that annoys me, but I let it go.
I mean, I guess it's an easy way to do it because you're not going to like zoom in on someone's phone constantly or have the screen just be, you know, shoot to a zoom in of a phone constantly. So it makes it easier for the scene to continue on with seeing what they're receiving as a text, because that's one thing we were talking about pre-show a little bit is, you know, you're still a young man. You're still in your 20s. I'm about to turn 40 this year. But there's this part of you that's like, you either have to accept that you're going to see these younger characters in these movies constantly with a phone in their hand if it takes place in modern day. And I, for one, have completely accepted it. As long as it's not done obnoxiously, you know. The one thing that this movie did a good job of is the characters, when they were talking to each other, at least didn't always have the phone in their hand, looking at the phone as they're talking to the other character.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the movie moves forward from there with, you know, this Tyler character receiving texts from an unknown number, which I feel like happens to everybody. Mm-hmm. And it's like asking him, like, what are you doing? You want to party? And he's like automatically like, yes. So clearly this kid doesn't give a fuck that COVID's a thing because he's like, I don't care. Whatever. Yeah. I'll party, you know?
Well, he says, sure. Who is this? So, I mean, he's still a little cautious. It's not just he's sure. And then,
but I understand. But I also understand though, like how much it sucked.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember when during COVID when we couldn't see each other, and I'd text you, and be like, I wish we could get a drink together.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Or I remember I graduated college during COVID, and I had like a get together, and everybody like sat in a circle like 10 feet apart from each other, and I was like, this sucks. Like I get it. Like I wasn't mad, but I was like,
I didn't
this
go.
Really sucks. No, you didn't come. It's okay.
No.
You didn't.
Because I cared about COVID, Brady, and you didn't.
Yeah, I didn't. I actually got COVID in the beginning at March. I was probably patient 0, honestly. With my luck.
Well, I mean, look, we got someone famous on the podcast. So.
I mean, what could I say? But anyways, I mean, I think the opening is really strong. Not just because it takes you back to a place, but I think the suspense is done well, and even when Tyler gets back to his house and you find that,
which, by the way, spoilers, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, sorry. Yep, spoilers. When Tyler gets back to his house, and the killer, you find out that the stalker killer has followed him. Like, I think the fight is really good. Like, it's very prolonged and drawn out, but not in a way like you're like, all right, someone needs to die. Like, you're still in suspense the whole time. And then when he ventures back out of the apartment with the baseball bat, I think it's done great. Looks down the hallway, flashes back to him, killer's behind him. Classic. Loved it. Very Scream-esque. Very late 90s, early 2000s type slasher. I had a lot of parallels to Scream. I think this is the first time you see a knife come through the door in the movie, not the last. And that reminded me a lot of Scream. So I was like, all right, cool.
The movie, right off the bat, plays like a modern version of like a traditional 80s slasher to me. I mean, all of the archetypal things are there. I mean, the kid, yes, he has a one-on-one fight with an intruder. We don't know who that is. And he is able to get away from him, go into his bedroom. Then he grabs a baseball bat. I see in the bedroom, the window is open. I don't know how far up he is. I assume since there's a couple floors,
he was pretty far,
that he's up a couple flights.
Yeah.
But number one, just like every other slasher, the character isn't smart enough to be like, I'm going to try to get out the window. Number two, when he only takes like a breather, like literally maybe 30 seconds before he opens the door back up when he thinks the intruder is left. And
because
then
he hears
from
an alarm.
there,
like I would never go out. Like you hear the alarm, I'd be like, no, I don't give a fuck.
Dude, I'd be staying in there
for the rest of my life.
As long as I could.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I assume he could find a way to contact someone from there and be like, no. But this kid, I can see where they're going with what kind of character he is.
Careless.
he's ready to fuck this dude up.
Yeah.
I mean, he put on a really good fight with this intruder.
Yeah.
He's ready to fuck him up. Like, you don't go in my house. Like, I understand that point of view. But the second part that he does that is another fucking slasher mistake that we see all the time. He goes out of his door, sees that his front door is open, thinking like, oh, I'm going to go out there and see if the dude's there. Number one thing you always do is check the whole house or apartment first before you try to go out anywhere. But no, of course he doesn't. He goes out steadfast out the front door and he's done.
Yeah. Also, what are you going to do? Your hand just like you ripped it from the knife in the wall and you have a wooden baseball bat against a guy with a knife. Like, you've put up a good fight at this point, but like, I, for one, would not go back out there. I know I just said it, but like I that frustrates me to no end. Like, you have a window behind you, you have a baseball bat, knock out the window, yell for people. The guy already knocked you out the window. Somebody had to hear the shattered glass. Like, come on.
Of course.
But I get
all
it.
of these
I get
things,
it.
all of these arguments we're making,
Lori
though.
had dropped the knife.
But I guess I don't care in the end, because if he didn't make these mistakes, like if these characters don't make these mistakes, then they never die. And of course, us as the viewer, us as the horror fan, us as the gore hound, we want to see the death. We want to see the blood and the gore. And yeah, the death is good, and I'm not going to spoil that entirely, but it's brutal. I mean, the one thing that I like about this movie right from the forefront is that it's brutal and it doesn't pull any punches. It gives you the shit. It's absolutely gory and violent as fuck, and I appreciate that. Very much akin to Scream.
Yeah.
And then, moving forward here, some of the things about the movie, we have these two main characters,
Parker and Miri.
Yep. And Parker. Yep. There's two friends that are college kids, and they're going to go off to quarantine.
And you can definitely tell the contrast between the two as you're introduced to them. Like, everybody, it's at the very beginning of the pandemic, so everybody's wearing masks. And Parker is not wearing a mask, and she's taking photos, even though she's outside, which I noted. And then Miri comes up and is immediately like, "Why isn't your mask on? Like, what are you doing without your mask?" And it should also be noted that Parker is all over her phone, uploading to social media. Miri does too. So I think, going back to your earlier question, Justin, about like, how do I feel about phones and text boxes and all that? Like, I like that this movie includes, like, this is how people nowadays are so easily tracked. Like,
yeah.
It's not just like, I know you did last summer, like Ben Willis sent Julie a card, right? Like, this is like, people are just uploading constantly, and you can always know where someone is.
And literally, these characters are going to go to Parker's dad's cabin, right? A remote location, but she literally posts on Instagram going to the lake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if anyone knows anything about her or her family, then they would be aware the possibility is there that she's going to this cabin.
Yeah. And I think one thing that did kind of strike me throughout the movie as kind of over the top was the on the nose comparisons of, like, obviously the two different types of people that came out during the pandemic, those who wanted to abide by the regulations and the rules and took it upon themselves to be better for themselves and their families and their friends and society as a whole, and then those who were more careless and more, I don't know,
like all those motherfuckers down in Florida that were going to the clubs and without masks and shit, and those huge parties.
So it's like you have these two different characters, and you kind of get that throughout the movie, especially, at the end we'll go over, but just a really good setup to show the two differences, like main differences between these girls. Yeah,
for sure. And, so the film carries on, and they get to this, I said cabin, Brady, but what I really meant was
like a mansion.
multi-million-dollar mansion.
Yeah, right? This is like a New England cabin. This isn't like Georgia.
So clearly, at least this character, Parker, we know that she's very well off with her family. She proclaims that, oh yeah, my dad only comes up here once a year with his buddies or some shit. And I'm like, motherfucker must have some money.
I also knew they had money when she was like, my mom wanted to rent it out, but she won't. And I was like, okay, so you're just sitting on this house that you only use once a year, and you're not even like
that sits there. It's absolutely fucking gorgeous, right? And so you can see how impressed Mary is by it when they get there. It's just supposed to be the two of them, girls' weekend, right? Hanging out, staying safe, having a few drinks, just chilling, doing their thing. And that's when DJ shows up, apparently an estranged ex-boyfriend
from
Parker.
DJ Tanner, as everybody probably thought.
No. not DJ Tanner. And so from there, the movie also kind of switches a little bit here, the dynamic, because I didn't even realize what was going to happen there, but we have a male character introduced here. And, you know, the one thing I was going to say right off the bat about the initial core group of characters, because there's not many characters in this movie. I mean, we only really have a handful here, is that they felt real and genuine. And the performances by all of the actors it was very down to earth. And it just felt like I was there with real kids. They weren't caricatures of what modern kids would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, we talked about this in the pre-show a little bit too, but I struggle a lot with films with such tiny casts that don't spend enough time, in my opinion, developing them. I don't need a whole backstory as to why Parker's dad has this cabin in the first place. I don't need a whole backstory into why she doesn't wear a mask. I just need a little more to get me invested to really care if a person gets killed or not. Especially
so you're one of those people that cares about the characters in slasher movies.
Well, I think if you have a small cast like this, yes, if you're getting into a huge amount of camp counselors at Friday the 13th, Part 6, no, I really don't give a fuck. But this is three characters, right? Total, really, that you're focused on. Like, I need a little more. But you are right. I think that they were very grounded Gen Zers, I guess is what they'd be.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing that I'll argue with about. I mean, like, I don't necessarily need, like, much backstory at all about these characters. And I guess it's that I'm so used to, with horror movies today, you know, when they churn these things out, I feel like the modern viewpoint on this is that they almost force you to care about the characters. Like, there's always this backstory about, oh, this person's father died, or, you know, my relationship, or someone committed suicide. So they're trying to add this tragic element around them. And this thing just goes right for the fucking throat. Like a traditional, you know, video store slasher. You just pick it up. It's got a guy with a knife on it, and you watch it just to see a great suspenseful horror movie with good chase scenes. And I think it does that in spades. I think it's not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's just trying to take a basic idea. We know what a slasher is, right? They're back in again, and I'm so happy about that.
For sure.
But it's not trying to do anything, in my viewpoint, to really push forward and reinvent anything. It's just doing a solid slasher movie. So to me, it didn't really matter that I didn't really know much about these kids at all, other than they're at a cabin in a remote location and there's a stalker on the loose. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't need much more than that to get me invested in what I'm watching the movie for in the first place, which is the horror elements.
So I guess I would say, like, I don't mean that I need a bunch of backstory. I just, there, you know, in movies you have, you know, let's say Parker makes a bunch of decisions while she's running that show the type of person she is. Like, she's very creative, she's very innovative. Like, I felt like I didn't get that. Like, what was it? Mike Flanagan's Hush from 2016, I think. With that's great film, in my opinion, of home invasion. Iconic mask, which in this one you don't really have. And I think you just get a sense of who the character of Maddie is in that movie. And I get it's a one-on-one situation there, opposed to three different characters. But I think I will
argue real quick. You said iconic mask for Hush. It was iconic until he took it off like half an hour into the movie. It was just a regular ass motherfucking dude. And you know what? That's one thing I will criticize this for. And I get that, you know, the slasher villains, it's really hard to reinvent that. It's hard to come up with something fresh in terms of the look and the design. But God damn it, can we just please get away from guys with black fucking hoodies with ski masks or what? It's like, I think Trick did it, you know, the Patrick Lussier movie from a few years ago, which was terrible, by the way. They're just putting, you know, tall white dudes in fucking black hoods,
which is scary.
I mean, dude, I see like kids, like 5 or 6 kids like that at the gym every day. You see kids that look like that at the grocery store. To me, maybe in the 80s and 90s, that was a, you know, when you saw a dude with his hood up, you might have thought, hey, that dude's trouble. Or he's just like fucking an athlete and he just got done working out or something. But to me, I guess in terms of the silhouette, it worked very well in this movie. Because I will say there are some amazing fucking shots of you seeing, you know, I won't say who, because there's a number of different stalkers in this movie. Spoiler alert. There's not just one person. And that's a pretty cool moment when you find that out, because you didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I'm just, I guess maybe we expect too much in the horror world, but there's little things you could do to differentiate your villain in comparison to what we've already seen.
And here's the thing too, with this movie, like, I don't know, it's marketed as a slasher. I think it definitely is, but it's also home invasion. And so I think that the design of the invader would work fine if that's the type of movie it was. Does that make sense? Like the black mask, the black clothing, if you're invading a home, like, I get that, but this was a slasher, so I need more. I need something iconic. I need something like, you don't even have to have a mask. Be disfigured. Have like, I don't know, just look fucking zany, like in a Slumber Party Massacre. Right? Like, exactly.
I mean, I dare say that, Your Next did it beautifully. They are just regular people invading a home, but they have these cool animal masks, which, lent itself to really giving this iconic imagery. Like, to me, I want to remember the villain, or villains as we have here. Mm-hmm. And I guess, they thought it was just fine enough to have them in a fucking black hood, and they are wearing fucking COVID masks. So I guess in the end that is kind of memorable. That's what's on the poster, a white COVID mask, an N95 mask or whatever. But also, all right. So when this DJ kid gets there, they realize, him and this Parker girl, they're not going to get back together. They smoke a bunch of joints, they go to bed, and then he realizes someone's in the house by someone getting inside. Of course, he fucking let him in by leaving the door wide open, which, of course, we have to allow, or else they would have found a way in anyway.
And here's another part where you were talking about great shots. When DJ and Parker are outside, and then Parker goes inside, behind DJ, you see something. And I don't know if you had the same thing, but I was like, is that the stalker?
Yeah.
Is that just a shadow?
Yep, it's in the background.
And then he goes away, and you see just the eyes. And I was like, okay, that's really fucking cool. I did like that.
Yeah, that was really well done. And I think from here on, just to get to the excitement of the movie, I like that the movie's not really, there's like a first act and there's a second act, and that's it. I mean, it introduces you to the characters. It gets you to the spot that these things need to happen, and then it happens. And then the movie doesn't slow down. It literally it's full force in your face. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, once the stalker gets into the house, it's just like unbridled fucking visceral violence the entire time, and excitement, chase after chase, and it didn't let up until the end of the movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think fans of like Scream 2, or I Know You Did Last Summer, with those really long chase scenes, are gonna like this movie a lot.
Oh, for sure.
Because I mean, spoiler alert, after DJ gets killed, I mean, again, he puts up a great fight, and I do like that. This movie,
fantastic fight scene.
How both Tyler and DJ put up fights, because they are both like pretty in shape dudes. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see them fight back against somebody even caught off guard. The kill of DJ at the end of his scene, I think, was good. CGI ruined it for me a little bit. But he gets basically stabbed a bunch of times after fighting, and then impaled with a curtain rod, I believe. And he gets dragged out.
I jumped out of my seat and like cheered at that. Yeah. I was glad they went a little over the top there. I was expecting, because that's the thing too. Just saying, we as horror fans, we can be picky as shit about this stuff. If your killer is walking around with a knife, I pray that not every kill is going to be like the neck getting cut, just getting stabbed in the back. We love our interesting and experimental kills. We love it when you use different elements around houses to kill your victims, and that was a fantastic one. Yes, it was CGI, for sure, but I thought it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, I agree. I one thing that I will give this movie really positive marks for is that everything becomes a weapon. Like, you get to a point in the movie where you're looking around and you're saying, okay, like, they could use this next. They could use this next. I mean, there's a meat carver that's used towards the end, and then aerosol spray. So, like, I think it all works out. But back to the chase scene. It's just high adrenaline, and there's two separate chase scenes, really. And the first one, I just was glued to my TV. I was like, wow, this is like really fucking good. Like, who's gonna get it? Like, I thought for sure one of those girls was gonna die in the first chase scene, and then it ends up with Miri being horribly injured. But I was still like, wow, it's amazing. Like, there's a scene where the killer comes running up after they crash the car and throws the rock through the window, and I was like, whoa. Like, they're like, what's he doing? And he's like picking up a rock full jog, throwing it at the window. But yeah, I liked it.
No, I liked that too. I mean, that's the one thing. It's real world in the sense that these stalkers are they're like going fucking crazy. They really want to kill these kids.
Yeah.
Like, they're vicious, and we don't know the reason why until the end, of course, and we're going to get there in a few minutes here. But the movie just, again, it ramps itself up, and then it doesn't stop until the end. It's nonstop excitement, and that's why, you know, when you go back to what we were saying before about character and all those things that, yes, in a perfect world we would be able to juggle, the movie is short, sweet, to the point. I mean, it's right to the neck slasher, and it doesn't take any time to fool around. You know what I mean? It's not trying to be anything else other than a high adrenaline horror movie. Mm-hmm. And I think the characters are well enough where you're like, I rooted for them, but at the same time, I also am on the same mindset that, hey, if one of you are going to die, then that's fine with me, because I don't really know what's happening. I don't know until the end when it's revealed, the twist, if you will, because we know with Williamson, there's going to be a twist. Yeah.
What did you think of the twist?
I thought it was fucking hilarious.
So for listeners, spoiler alert, again, Parker's being chased a second time. After she had already killed one of the assailants, we find out as another one walks through the door that there are more than one. So another chase scene ensues. Miri is hiding at home because her leg is broken. And then Parker finally almost gets killed multiple times. A car approaches. She goes up to the car, starts banging on the fucking window. The person in the car is like, do you have a mask? Like, who's that guy out there trying to kill you? She's like, but you have to put a mask on before you come in my car.
Funniest fucking scene, I swear to God. That's the scene, Britt. You asked me pre-show, like, what indicated to me that the movie had comedy elements. That was it right there, because I was laughing my ass off at that.
But I felt like you weren't supposed to really laugh like that at that part. I think, like, it did not land well for me. I was like, are you serious? Like, it was heavy-handed, I guess. But anyways.
But there were those people, though. There were those people that were like that. Like, you can't come in here without, like, anyone.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
But I feel like if somebody was running to your car saying, this guy's trying to kill me, and you see them with the knife, you'd be like, all right, just get in and we'll deal with the mask stuff later. But I digress. So she gives her a spare mask. Parker gets in the car, puts the mask on. She's like, oh, this smells kind of funny. And the woman's like chloroform. And then
out for the count.
So, yeah, like Justin said, it's funny. I don't think it was supposed to be that funny, but
I mean, did you laugh, Brady, or were you like fucking rolling your eyes?
I was rolling my eyes.
Well, I laughed. I guess that's my sense of humor.
But
I like stupid shit.
So they get back to the house. Miri is still there, crawling around. The two assailants bring Parker back and then start giving the explanation after giving her a COVID test. So
as soon as they laid her back and you saw them sticking the swab up their nose, I immediately was like, okay, I know where this is going. Mm-hmm. And then I connected the dots, because we see earlier in the movie that Parker had to piss off her ex-DJ, went to a party, and she was making out with some dude.
Named Benji.
Yep. Who she just called some random dude, yep. Which she did just to piss DJ off. Yep. And it's mentioned more than once. So I was like, oh shit, I guarantee this is connected to that party in some way, because we hadn't seen anything else in the movie. They hadn't done anything else or gone anywhere else. Who else could these people possibly be? You know what I mean? In terms of who would want to kill. We know who the main person is they want to kill. It's this Parker chick.
Yep. Yeah.
And so
and then as soon it's like they're talking to her and they're like, did you know a Benji? And she's like, yeah, it's just some dude. And like, then, like you said, Justin, like you connect to that. You're like, all right, Benji's got to be related to them. And then you find out that Benji is actually the son of the assailants. And that after he was at the party where he kissed Parker, he ended up dying from COVID. And so now this family is taking it out on Parker. and trying to exact their revenge. Parker says, no, I didn't have it. And this is the part that really fucking got me mad at this movie, is where she's like, I don't have COVID. I don't have COVID. I don't have COVID. And the mom is like, positive. You were asymptomatic. And I was like, come the fuck on. Like, just stop already. Just say you had COVID 5 minutes ago and it's fine.
I laughed so fucking hard at that.
It didn't work for me. So then, you know, they split up the killers. And one of them goes looking for Miri because they find out that somebody's using the Wi-Fi. Because she's trying to get a hold of 911, but she can't get through, of course. And then the guy is like, oh man, that light's flashing. Like, come on. Again. Anyways.
Yeah. So,
this movie is just so over the top in the third act.
Oh, yeah, it is. And I'm glad that it went there. To me, it was like a breath of fresh air. And it really just, I laughed a lot at it. And I'm glad that it had those, I guarantee you they were intentional, Brady. Humor elements to it, comedic elements, if you will, rather. And, you know, the movie ends on a high note. You know, those antlers. I haven't seen an homage to Silent Night, Deadly Night in a while, and that was clearly one to me.
Yeah. That was a
the
good
fucking one. Dude. So you know, the girls get away. They, dude, it's so great when they fucking hit a bottle. Miri hits the mom over the head with a wine bottle.
Yeah.
And then they push her through a glass door.
Yeah.
And they go upstairs, and Miri grabs and takes a meat cutter, like one of those electric fucking, like you cut your turkey with.
It's like a bush trimmer.
Yeah. And so the dude comes upstairs, and they get him in the ankle. You feel that. And then, of course, they push him over the railing, and then right onto the antlers.
Yep.
And a brutal death. But it doesn't end there. They think they're good to go, and they run out to go. What is that? Is that like a golf cart? What is that?
It's like a little
all-terrain vehicle.
Yeah, it's like
gator,
one of the things you take them on a farm.
Yeah, or like if you're going to go hunting or some shit.
Yeah.
The mom is still alive, which everyone knows. If you're the viewer, you're like, she ain't dead. She just got thrown through a fucking couple, you know.
The killer always comes back for one final scare.
And, dude, it's funny because that's why I like watching these movies with my wife, because she is literally that person in the theater that will say out loud, like, that bitch ain't dead. You didn't kill her. She ain't dead. And when they're running away, instead of walking over like a normal person would, like, oh, are you dead? You're not? Okay. You know, hit them in the head with a hammer until they're gone. But, you know, then we need our last scare. We need our last little showdown. And we have it in this barn where they're trying to put gas into this all-terrain vehicle, and Parker ends up pouring it all over the mom, and then Miri lights her on fire, and it's pretty epic.
Do you think
she runs
that so the mom's name is Pamela? Is that's got to be a call out to Friday the 13th, right? Especially with it coming out on the 13th, Friday the 13th. It's definitely, I would have to say that. And they mentioned Jason Voorhees earlier on in the movie. And she has the axe that she's trying to kill them with at the end. So that made me think, all right, no sweater, but, you know.
Well, think about it. I mean, the parallels to Friday the 13th are very clear to me, Brady. I mean, you killed my son. Now we're coming to kill you. We're going to pick off anyone that gets in the way until I get to you. Mm-hmm. It's Pamela Voorhees 101 for sure. I saw a lot of parallels with Friday the 13th. You know, they're out, they're in the woods. Yep. You know what I mean? They're at a lake.
She's on a raft at one point.
Yep. All of those things really connected. I mean, just the only difference is that these killers look boring as fuck and are just wearing shit that they bought, you know, at the local thrift store.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, I just, it pulled up Pamela and I said, oh, I wonder.
Yeah. No, I mean, I immediately from the get-go, as soon as we saw what the setting was going to be, I was like, oh, okay. It's kids at a cabin. You know what I mean? There's a killer on the loose. Okay, Friday the 13th. And I felt like it was done subtly. It wasn't like over the top, on the nose or anything like that. So all of that worked, and I think the movie ends on a high note. We see the mom literally laying there,
burning to death,
on fire, and the cops show up, and it's like this nice, beautiful little shot, and it, you know, ties it all up with a nice little bow on top and gives you a kiss, and titles roll.
Tucks you in,
Yeah, tucks you in. I think there's one thing we haven't talked about that I have to give credit for is director John Hyams, who directed this. the name immediately didn't ring a bell when I started watching this, but then, doing a little bit of research pre-show, I had realized that he had done Alone from 2020, which I really, really enjoyed, which was another thriller horror film.
It was good.
In which a girl is stalked by a homicidal maniac in the wilderness. So a lot of those parallels are there. I found that movie to be great. It also starred one of the same actors,
Mark Mendoza.
Good thing you said it, because I was going to say I'm going to butcher his
I had to
name.
look it up beforehand.
Who I fucking love from Ozark. He is absolutely fantastic in that show, and he plays a threatening villain in that and in this, and as well as Ozark, he's very threatening in that. He's a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
Loved him in this, and I thought he was even more brilliant in Alone. So, I mean, fantastic job by John Hyams. The movie has a very professional look and feel to it. It feels like it's directed by someone that knows how to direct a good movie. It's not too glossy or anything, or too Hollywood, but it looks like it was made by a very competent filmmaker. And that was one of the things I enjoyed a lot about it. Another thing was I thought the music was really on point too, by Nima Fakara.
Really, really good.
There was one point though, and I don't know if anyone else is going to notice this, where literally the notes to the score were pulled directly from Man of Steel. If you listen at the end, like when they're going upstairs, it's literally Man of Steel. He had done the score to Becky a few years ago. And there's been a couple other things that he's done that I've seen, but I was like, oh man, this is literally point for point. It's Man of Steel. But I don't think any horror fans are going to notice that. It's just, the cinephile in me that listens to a lot of film scores. It just connected. I was like, that's what it is. But here we are, Brady. Ooh. We're at the conclusion of this movie, Sick, which just landed on Peacock.
Sick, bruh.
It's sick, bro. I still say, I mean, I see a lot of people on film Twitter and horror Twitter and the like really championing this movie, and I think it's for good reason. I think it was a solid, fun slasher movie. Nothing too special, but I think the dialogue is witty enough. I think the characters are just good enough, and I think that the acting is very solid. I think everyone here was extremely well portrayed and well acted. I didn't think I just didn't find anyone to be a weak spot. Okay. And I think the fact that there was so few characters, we benefited in that way where we didn't have to pay attention to a lot of other people. It was like core group, and there it was. So any final thoughts before we give a trash it or treasure it on this, Brady? No
final thoughts other than I do want to say that the cinematography was done really well too. I think it was by Yaron Levy. And I don't know. It made everything feel very eerie, even if the overall movie didn't land for me. The cinematography was very on point.
While you're talking to me about it, it sounds like you liked a lot about it. So I guess...
Yeah, but is that enough to make me treasure it?
I don't know. We'll have to see. We're going to ask you right now, Brady, trash it or treasure it.
So here's the thing. It's another Scream ripoff movie, the type that we always love because we love Scream. There's just nothing meta, quote unquote, about it. And
which is good.
It doesn't need that, but again, like I've already said my complaints about it. I would just wish that I had more distinguishing characteristics between the characters of Parker, Miri, DJ. Everything on screen felt mostly lackluster to me. In the first half of the movie, chase scene gets really good, but it's just so heavy-handed with his commentary on COVID. And like, although I said I don't think it's too soon to have movies, especially horror, about COVID, I think that you don't need to be so over the top with it, and you can be more subtle about it, and just include it into the fiber of the movie. Because honestly, this movie didn't need to be COVID related for it to still work. Like they could still have gone to a cabin, and all this stuff could have happened. You could have just as easily have had she, fed this kid alcohol after making out with him, and he got into a drunk driving accident, and you could have still had the same movie. So I don't feel like they really incorporated COVID into it in a very meaningful and effective way. But there are some good parts about it, like the weaponry, the kills, even the CGI ruined it a little bit. I gotta treasure it, and I didn't think I was going to, but over the course of this episode, I changed my mind.
I was literally gonna reach through this computer and grab you, and because I understand the flaws that it had, but it seems like you enjoyed it more than you disliked it.
Yeah, I think I can look past the things that I didn't like about it and do what you said and just say, like, this is a slasher movie. Like, I don't need it to be a masterpiece. I don't need it to be an Ari Aster film. You know, I can take it for what it is and enjoy it. And it's not, like, you're not sitting in your seat bored after 2 hours. Like you said, it's very lean, it's very mean, and that's kind of what we're looking for.
Lean, mean, killing machine, and it is short.
Yeah.
It's literally a proper runtime of what a traditional slasher horror movie would be. And of course, you know, lockstep with you, Brady, I'm also going to treasure it. And I've already championed enough in this review, but I appreciate movies like this that present you with something, a very simple idea, and they do it really, really well. And they're not trying to impress you, really. They're just trying to give you a good, solid movie. And I will say, for those fans that were expecting, Kevin Williamson's name on it, I think it's unfair sometimes, you know, to expect the highest level of whatever it is you're thinking just because of one name on it. Yes, he produced it. Yes, he wrote it. I think it was very cleverly done, and it did feel like a modern version of what Kevin Williamson is known for with his horror movies. And I think his DNA is all over the thing. And I slightly disagree with you, Brady. I think that the COVID aspects are integral to what the movie's trying to do, because I think at this point in time, it's really wanting the audience to allow themselves to let their guard down and just, hey, kind of poke fun at how silly a lot of the things were. I know a lot of people died. I'm not saying COVID was silly or anything, but how we as a society acted and how crazy some people got over this and how it really just overtook everybody's lives in such an extreme way. So it's fine now for us as a horror audience to sit down, you know, kind of let out a sigh of relief and go, it's fine now that we can kind of look back at this as this time in our life and just have fun with it. You know what I mean? Where a couple years ago, I don't think anyone could have done that with this movie, let alone this movie ever being released in the first place, taking place with COVID-related elements.
You know what would have been a really good mask for these characters is, do you remember the videos and the photos that came out of people at like Walmart and grocery stores that had the weirdest fucking contraptions
like
to their
the
faces?
Saran
Yeah,
wrap
can you
mask
imagine if
or
they
the
showed up with
gas
saran wrap
masks?
all over them?
Dude,
wearing like a fishbowl on their head.
Some of the shit we saw, I think I saw someone wearing one of those T-Rex Halloween costumes, getting groceries too or something. It was, oh man, I did see a guy that had like, it was like a blue tarp you would use for like automotive purposes, like duct tape around him, and it looked like a cape, and he had like saran wrap over his face. It was the craziest shit, but that's what we saw during that time. I mean, it would have been interesting had they implemented something like that, but again, I digress. The killers are effective in a suspenseful way in how brutal they are. They are very frightening. I just wish that there would have been a little more creativity put into the design. I mean, it's literally like, fuck it, we'll just have them wearing black hoods and black outfits. And I get it. It's scary, but it's been done to death. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen, for this Brain Stew Fresh Fright review of Sick, directed by John Hyams. If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry we spoiled the whole thing. But if you have seen it, let us know what you think in the comments of this post. If you like what you're hearing, if you love what you're hearing, if you fucking hate us and you want to tell us that we should die tomorrow and never record a podcast again, leave us a review on iTunes and Spotify. And if you haven't followed us yet, we are on social media at Epic Film Guys, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're literally everywhere where podcasts are found.
Come find us. Come be one of us.
Come
be
say
one
hi.
of us.
Come say hi. You be one of us. And yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy our long list of library of podcasts that we have available. Until next time, I'm Justin.
I'm B-Ratty.
And as always, we like to ask you to keep it creepy.